Gino.com. Now, back to your friends, Don and Gino.
Thank you for joining us every Thursday, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. right here on your hometown station, AM 420 KCS. The Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show now for over 3.5 years. And you can check us out by going to donandgino.com. You can actually enter our new beautiful Vault Media Studios live by clicking on the Listen and Chat Live button. But you can also check out, I'd say, almost 200 shows now on YouTube, and probably 400 and something clips now from our interviews and stuff. So great information.
There's just a wealth of information on YouTube, and I love, since it's owned by Google, you could search YouTube for whatever subject you're looking for, or by the professional that you want to listen to. Because Lisa, you've probably been on the show now 3 or 4 times, and every time we've talked about something completely different. And so if you'd like to, you could just type in Lisa's name, right? You could just type in Lisa Odom in our search engine, and you'll see every show we've ever done with Lisa.
And I guarantee everyone you're going to go, didn't know that. Great information. Glad I listened to that, because we love having you on.
Well, I love being on. Thank you.
Okay, so we were talking about business succession planning. And again, you're going, how does that apply to me? But if it doesn't apply to you, I guarantee it applies to someone you know, because everybody knows a business owner or 2 or 3 or 4 in this small community called Santa Clarita. So it's important information for you to know, for you, your kids, your grandparents, whoever, especially your grandparents and that own a business. You're like, I can't wait to get it. And you don't know what you're getting unless there's a plan behind it. And you were going into why a lot of business owners don't bother to do succession planning. And let's touch a little bit more on that. You're going into some of the details and stuff, and we'll talk also about things to consider in regard to succession planning.
Right. Well, as I mentioned, a lot of people think their business is really just about them, and so if something happens to them, it doesn't matter, and the business is going to die anyway. That's probably a big, big reason. Another one is that people often think that their businesses are too small, that nobody would want to buy their little business. Maybe it only has 100,000 or 200,000 in revenue, and they just don't think anybody would want to buy it. But that, recently we had a little tiny, we have a client that has a little tiny business that they did on the side, and they're selling it for $10,000. And while maybe that doesn't sound like a lot of money, it's still $10,000 for this little tiny business that they created, and it's something. So, and
when that could go to either the spouse,
absolutely,
go to the children, all that, it all matters.
It totally matters. It matters.
I mean, if I found a bag on the street, I'm not going to walk by it.
Exactly. Exactly. Another really big reason why people don't do business succession planning is similar to their estate planning. Nobody wants to think about these topics. Nobody wants to think about dying or being incapacitated. Now, retiring.
So that doesn't happen just because you talk about
it. Exactly. But they will think about retiring. So sometimes if we kind of, espouse if we back into it that way, I mean, not as a business owner myself, gosh, I can't imagine working until I'm 80, 85, 90. I'm hoping that I'm going to retire a little sooner than that, because it's stressful to own a business. Anybody who owns a business can tell you it's the most stressful thing. I mean, you not only do you have to do...
It's American dream until you own one?
Exactly. Exactly.
Perfect.
Because you don't only have to do the work that your, business is all about, but you also have to get the business in the door. So you have kind of 2 jobs, whereas when you're employed, you just have to do the work. So,
right. So go to aprgi.com.
So the other reason is that they just think it's going to be costly and expensive. And, truthfully, the process and time consuming. And the process for business succession planning can take a while. It takes a while for you to think about, what do I really want if something happens to me? If I, there's different scenarios too. The agreement usually involves a death scenario, retirement scenario, and incapacity scenario. And sometimes we use life insurance to fund an exit strategy.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, we definitely talked about that. I mean, it's, one of the things is you want to sit down with someone like Lisa to make sure that you even start thinking, as you just mentioned, about different scenarios and in what scenarios you would have to have an exit strategy, what the solutions are, but just someone to ask you the questions, because sometimes you don't even know what the questions are.
Exactly.
At least if you listen to some of the questions, and I see a great list of questions here, at least you start thinking about those things. And silly things like you may have mentioned when you took over for your mom that you didn't even know how to get into the bank account.
Yep.
I mean, logins, passwords. Oh my God, how are you supposed to guess what the passwords are on the 72 websites we all log into every day?
It's true.
Those kinds of things are small things, but some of them may not even have a cost to them, right? Keep an Excel spreadsheet with a password. I mean, simple little things that you may at least spark some thought to.
Exactly, exactly. And it's significant because if you don't have these things in place and you haven't thought about them, if something happens, your business could be completely stopped for a period. Well,
And the
maybe,
frustrations that are involved in that is ridiculous.
absolutely. And maybe that's not a big deal to you because you're thinking, well, I'm dead in that scenario. But what if you're just incapacitated and you need that money to survive? Like,
You kind of want that business
it's,
back.
yeah, you kind of want to keep it going. It's advisable anyway to keep it going in that scenario. So it's important to at least think about these things. I mean,
Well, I love that, we were already kind of brought up, but you also listen to this too out there, because it's imperative when Lisa's bringing up these subjects, and like you said, it's not subjects you want to bring up, but the good news is when you get solutions that you did not know about. Like, for example, if you think Gino and I, we own some business together, and we're thinking, how am I ever going to come up with money to even pay him if something happened, or pay his wife? And then it could be as simple as, well, get life insurance on them, and then business pays that on a monthly basis. That's reasonable. It doesn't really affect our business, and we don't have to worry about it.
Dawn didn't want to get that with me earlier because I was too heavy, so it was too expensive.
Good point. Now these lost 100 pounds. We're going to look into that, Lisa.
yes, and you should. It's significant. I mean, but then a lot of times people will think, okay, I'll just get the life insurance, but then they don't think about the fact that, well, how does this all work? You forget that there's a component that probably needs to stay in the business to help it operate when one of you is gone. Keep the
Key
business
employee,
going.
like
Key
insurance.
employee, exactly. You
Right.
need someone to take Gino's spot in that scenario or Dawn's spot in that scenario.
Oh, they're not going to want his spot.
Well, you're probably right, but so if you don't have an agreement in place, then how does that money get dealt with? Because insurance is a great tool, but it has to be used properly, and you need a buy-sell agreement so that you know how that's all going to work.
See, don't get scared out there, because I know Lisa keeps bringing up going, well, it just should enlighten you going, wow, there are so many parameters I haven't even thought of. And Lisa's super sweet. Her and her mom rock stars. They're very accountable, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. I want to talk about how accountable you guys are and how some of the attorneys aren't, because we all know about that, and it's important to who you're aligned with. But you guys are really approachable and easy to talk to and find out. I mean, you don't have to start opening their wallet as soon as they meet you.
No.
They start ask questions, and I bet you most of your clients, I know we will, when we complete ours, will be relieved that this is handled.
Absolutely. We never have anybody leave once they've done something like this and say, gosh, I wish I hadn't done that.
Right.
Never.
Yeah, we say the same thing
Never.
about a house. Yeah, when we help somebody get into a home, we never have somebody go, darn, I wish I wouldn't have bought a home.
Yeah, no, never going to happen. So
least not the
nobody
first day.
never.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, it's such a great thing, and you feel relief. Especially, I mean, we know a lot of business owners whose entire families live off of the money that business generates, and without it, they would be a lot of trouble.
And then it's amazing that they don't have a plan in place.
It is. It's so much just because nobody wants to deal with these issues. It's just like in estate planning. Nobody wants to think about the hard side of life, which is that we're all going to die, or that we could potentially have a disease that causes incapacity. We think of, dementia and Alzheimer's, and we think of those as just affecting us when we're older. But we hear stories all the time about someone who gets cancer, and the cancer spreads to their brain, and they may only be in their 40s or their 30s, but they're no longer lucid,
Right.
and they may have had a very viable business, or may have been the breadwinner for their family, and now what do they do?
That's a good point. You brought up a really important thing, and if you're out there going, well, I'll deal with this when I have to deal with this. It's the same thing when you're bringing up. It's the same thing as dealing with the trusts and wills and estate planning for your family. It's no different than a business, because a lot of times you're thinking about yourself, but you got to really think about your family members and those around you, your employees and everybody else, because I know I had to force my dad to finally get one, and he's like, I'll get around to it, and he was healthy, and literally, unfortunately, passed away within a day and a half because of something that happened. And thank goodness we had that handled, because it made our life 100 times better when all that we knew exactly his will, his goals, what he wanted, and it made it easy because no fighting happened.
Exactly.
And so he did that for us, not just for himself. It was
true.
So you got to think about that for your family, for your employees, your friends, others that are involved. Am I right?
Absolutely, everybody. I mean, anybody who works with that business or derives some benefit from that business. I mean, even really your customers and your vendors. I mean, all of those people, they count on you. And so we see it all the time when someone passes away unexpectedly. Everything stops, and you, like I said, you could lose a very significant asset simply because you just didn't think in advance.
You know, it's sad because so many people think that life insurance is just enough, and I guess it's not.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about estate planning, succession planning, and other great information from Lisa Odom with McDowell Odom. Attorneys at law, just good friends, good peeps. You need to learn this stuff because it's important. It can change your life. When we come back to the Don and Gino Real Estate Planning Show.